Moshiach, I'm Edery. This video is a very special video. This is a video of a conference of the Yemen Global Moshiach Elite group, where each member of the Moshiach Elite group speaks for a few minutes and says what he thinks the world needs to hear. Of course, anyone that's in our group has been working around the clock, whether it's in the Christian world, in the Jewish world, in the Muslim world, or in the world in general, to see how we can prevent the opposite of peace and how we can bring peace to the world. We're looking at the world in the context of religion, in the context of culture, and the context of the climates and the situations throughout the world. And of course, we're looking at the world in a broader picture. We're not looking out for only one group or one organization or one entity, whether it's government, civilian, etc. We're looking at the entire picture and the harmony of the entire world. This is the true meaning of world peace. This is the true meaning of redemption. This is the true meaning of Mashiach. Everyone at the event got a certificate signed by the director of outreach operations and the administrator of MN Global. On the certificate, you have pictures of the greatest leaders of the Jewish people in the last 7 generations, including, of course, the Rebbe King Moshiach Shlita. Everyone also got a card with a picture of a bunch of bees going around the hive to symbolize that whoever's part of our group is a worker that is working to bring something sweet to the world. There was nothing written inside, and it came in a blank envelope, because the point is that we're working together to make something sweet. Everyone also got a small eagle with liquid gold inside, or whatever you want to call this, as a symbol of the premium importance of our mission, which is to sustain world peace as much as we can out of the love of our heart for our fellow mankind. Without further ado, we will give you a few of the moments of the people speaking, and of course them receiving their certificates. Of course, there are many people that have not received their certificate or were not at the meeting in New York, but this does not mean that there aren't those working behind the scenes and around the clock to fulfill these things. Not everyone was able to make it, and our organization is bigger than we would assume, than we thought. So there's a lot going on that you might not see, but this is the official report, and this is what we're going to put out and broadcast throughout the world. Enjoy.
As a Muslim Arabic, I am here for the truth. We are here to tell the people, the world, that the Arabic nation betrayed God, betrayed the son of Adam, betrayed the people of the book. They've been claiming our book was sent down to everybody that's actually walking and talking, and it's talking directly to the whole nation, to like a United Nation book. And any race or any people of the book that became before them must believe in the Quran as a book, as their book, or they will become disbelievers and they go to hell. God is telling us that the people that the book that He sent down before, such as Jews or Nasara, Christians, that this is their book. For them to actually leave the book, leave the Torah, or leave the Bible and follow the Quran without the Bible and the Torah, they'll be disbelievers. You can't follow, Jews can't follow Quran because the Quran is not talking to them. It's talking directly to the Arabic. God says, كُلَّ أُمَّةِ تُدْعَى إِلَى كِتَابِهَا هَذَا كِتَابُنَا. Every nation will be called upon its book, its own book. This is my book talking to me. So how can a Jew or a Christian go back to the Quran and say, this is my book, and then, when God is not talking to him? God shabbah, he made an example of somebody, a Jew that actually left the Torah and believed in the Bible as his book or the Quran. He says, مثل الذين حملوا التوراة. حملوا is something to carry. Like they've been lying saying the translation is a person that been studying the Torah. He says حملوا. حملوا in the dictionary, in the Arabic dictionary, because the book was sent down in the Arabic dictionary. It wasn't sent down for some scholar that made up these words. We have to go back to the Arabic dictionary and look at these words. God says حملوا. مثل, like the example of the Jewish people that actually carried the Torah and not carrying it right now is the example of a donkey carrying something in a trip that's not his. He's saying carrying the Quran or the Bible or the Torah. Like, why are you carrying those books and it's not talking to you? Like, it's not talking to you directly. A lot of people have been tricked. I think all three books talk to believers. When God is talking to a believer, he's talking to everybody that believes in God. But most of these books are talking directly to their own, to the nation, to the people that the book was sent to. The Jewish people accept that. The Christian, they kind of lost, but they do accept that this is their book. And the Arabic nation is only the only people that's claiming that their book is a United Nation book. Every time God is talking to them directly, they take their self out and they bring either a Jew or a Christian. And that's the trick. That's the trick they came up with. It was 60 years after the Prophet. A guy named Abdul Malik bin Marwan. He's the one that built the temple. He's the one that his son built the Jerusalem. The mosque. The Prophet didn't do it. The people that came after didn't do it because they know that location was a sacred location for the people of the book. God mentioned in the book over and over that he made it two direction, so he could see who's going to flip on the Prophet. The Jews or the Christian never believed in the Prophet for them to flip on him. It was the Arabic 60 years after went into that location and turned the direction back to the east. So now both direction, our direction as an Arabic and the people of the book, Christian and Jews, because you believe in the same direction, actually is twisted to the east. And God has mentioned that over and over. Then he came up with this whole lie. The book was sent down as the verses that's talking to us directly. وَالْحَامِلَاتِ وَقْرًا. Same thing God says, وَالْحَامِلَاتِ, to carry. Like whatever you carry, that's for you. وَالْمُقَسِّمَاتِ أَمْرًا. Those verses I gave you, like split ones, those split ones says, oh yeah, Bani Israel, all Jewish people, oh yeah, Kitab, all people of the book. This is direct conversation we're supposed to take, translate, and we're supposed to give it to them. That's how we complete Islam. So you are not Muslim if you don't commit that. You're not Muslim if you are actually telling us that this Jew or this Christian or this son of Adam actually have to come to the book and open the book and read it. That is not his job. That's why God says he made you a witness. That's why God said that you are the sa'q. There's a verse that says, the day judgment, they will come as a driver and a witness. You are the driver. You got that message. It was never these brothers to actually come over there and open the book. You lied to the people. You came up with a United Nations book, and God has been punishing you since then. So we have to accept the truth. We have to let the whole world know that, and especially like Pakistani Muslim or Indonesian Muslim or African Muslim, they're gonna go to hell because of these Arabics. Imagine. Like this whole lie and stuff came about because of this land, because some people I'll talk to them already trying to say like you sizing up with the Jew. I'm sizing up with God. I'm sizing up with the people of the book. Like this whole thing stopped when I see one verse saying we will let like all Jewish people live upon the land, and before the day judgment we will bring you back together. He says lefif. Lefif came one time, 77,439 words in the Quran, and one word comes one time, lefif. And you go to the dictionary, lefif means to go together one race of the people from all the world and bring them back. Why do the Arabic people don't accept that? Because they don't really believe in God.
But the Saudi Arabians, that they're doing a good job.
So, and they're not doing it, but they're doing it under the thing. So that's why they actually been blessed. And God is talking about these people that's gonna at least accept it, because the Saudis, they being quiet about it because they scared of their people. Like they think if they come out, their people will just have
come out and say that they're pro-Israel.
But this is the time where inshallah they'll be happy if the Israeli people deal with them. Inshallah, it's gonna be coming a time because we have to let people know the truth. We have to let people know that the book is their book, not the Jewish book or the Christian book.
All right. Thank you, Nadal.
What did your question again?
So just tell us what you're like. I remember you started telling us about how the Christians don't have a very positive ending for the world. They're very like end of times is like the whole world's going to be destroyed and ash and hell and everything's. So you said that like the Christianity is a little bit too shallow in its perspective, and it needs Judaism to tell them about how the lion's going to lie with the sheep and how there's going to actually be peace and there's going to be, world's pleasures are going to be worthless, and how we could actually bring godliness into this world. So tell us more about how you think Christians need to look at the prophecies and the secrets of the Bible. And
Sure. I mean, just like Judaism, just like any religion, just like anything, there's a lot of different sects, different dialects of Christianity, by the way. Me and I believe Nadal, and we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, that religion, in a way, is like a language, and how we, there was someone I knew on Facebook, he actually made a comment about how the Tower of Babel dissected or split the human race, so to speak, into many different languages, and we separated and went to the corners of the world. But in a way, religion is also the same way. It's an extension of that language. And so there's a lot of different kinds of Christianity. There are Christianities with very negative, viewpoints. There's Christians who just don't care. The Christians who, in Judaism, justice is a very important thing. For example, every drop of justice, is taken account of. When it comes to, like, for example, a tooth for a tooth and things like that, to an extent, obviously there are different interpretations as well. But in Christianity, it's almost like, you go about that, and Jesus can be like a bankruptcy lawyer. You go to Jesus and all your sins are forgiven. You don't have to, pay a penny anymore. So that's the idea. But when it comes to eschatology and times, Yosef is absolutely right. There are some pretty dark thoughts about the future when it comes to the world. The thought is that, at least the way I was brought up, in not Catholicism, but just I don't want to say regular Christianity, is that yes, the world's going to end. Country's going to disappear, and sinners going to go to hell, burn. Good people grow up. Go to heaven and everything. The Jewish perspective, I would say, is a lot more realistic. It's more like, for example, I've heard everything from Rabbi saying, like, there's going to be redemption, but we still have to go to work. Some say we don't have to go to work, but we'll have, like, robots, technology taking care of the work for us. That's why there's a saying in Judaism saying, every day is going to be Shabbat, every day is going to be a day of rest. So it's more realistic. Just as an example, we were eating sushi. Yosef, Rabbi Yosef talked about how, in the Christian world, you like to pray before you eat. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you and everything. But the thing is that, according to Yosef, that, the Jewish way, or one of the Jewish ways of looking at things, I have to say one because there's so many different views, even just within the same person. Right? But one of the Jewish views is that, if you pray before you eat, then you're always in that anxious, I can't wait to eat, and you're not going to fully, say the blessing, right? So you eat first. Once you have the food in your stomach, you're comfortable, and you're like, hey, thank you, Baruch Hashem, this is very nice. At least, that's my interpretation and everything. So that would be the biggest difference between Christianity and the Jewish way of looking at things in general. But now if you look at the Chinese people, they're even more, I want to say realistic, because the Chinese people take it to sometimes an extreme where it's, they kind of detach themselves a little bit from the spiritual and idealism side. Like, for example, if you tell a Chinese person about things like, idealism, freedom, things like that, normal Chinese parent will tell their kids, yeah, you know what, yeah, it's nice, that you like to help people, nice that you want to be a missionary and everything, but where's the money? Are you getting paid? That's why, we want you to be an engineer, we want you to be a lawyer, doctor, so you can make money, because that's what, but the thing is that, it's every country, every nation, every culture, every person has a good, has virtues, and by, in being good at one thing, you might have to make some sacrifices in other things. So Americans, for example, we're very, in terms of like idealism, law, and things like that, and we kind of miss out on the financial side of things, and we tend to spend frivolously, go in debt, take loans, and things like that. But in China, we sometimes, neglect the idealism, kind of things, but the materialism we're very much about, eating, drinking, and, and it's, to us, it's a wise thing. It's wisdom. Wisdom is about how to, be smart and, how to fulfill your self-interest. Because I think if you really care about yourself, you're going to reach a point where you realize that you have to care about other people. Because otherwise, there's nothing for yourself. You want to give the world to yourself, you're going to have to care about the world itself. So hopefully, that was clear enough.
All right, thank you, Sean.
Yeah, hi. My name is Rabbi Yaakov David Cohen. I'm a special envoy for the Institute of Noahide Code, which is a UN NGO here in the United Nations headquarters. One of the primary focuses of our work is trying to bring about governments on the government level, that is, that governments should take on these laws. What are these 7 laws? The 7 laws, I'm sure you all know what they are. They're basic laws, they're basic principles given to Noah. Before there was actually any division of different nations or people or religions or creeds, there was only one family, which was called Noah and his sons. And then we all branched out and we all became different nations, and obviously there are 70 universal nations that exist in the United Nations, actually 196, but 70 initially, which ideally the Noahide laws represent a bridge. It represents a bridge by all of us coming together as one. It represents a bridge for Muslims, for Christians, even for Jews to understand. Before Jews were Jews, we actually were Noahides, and then we took on an additional role, which is becoming Jewish. But it doesn't negate the fact that we all need these principles to be able to live in harmony and peace. And it's fundamental in the sense that because what's going on in the world right now, a lot of the strifes and conflicts have a religious background to them. So politically they will not be solved. And the Secretary of Antonio Guterres has mentioned this numerous times. He said clearly, we have to work together with religious leaders. And I've had a number of conferences in the United Nations. We're working on a UN resolution, but I've had a number of conferences whereby we're utilizing the Universal Noahide Code as a bridge for all people, and we're actually looking at adopting a resolution, and this will able to bring about peace. And we've in the past we've had imams, sheikhs, we've had scholars, every different. We try to bring all people together. And I've actually traveled extensively. I've recently been to Turkey, I've been to China, I've been to Korea. They want me now to go to Berlin and Rome. But the bottom line is that these universal principles are really a means to bring about peace. What's going on in Europe, in the Middle East, and so on. I mean, over here we can talk about it openly. We don't have to worry about being attacked or being. So we have the option of free speech. Free speech allows us to speak freely, and I think if anyone, whether it's Christian, Muslim, Chinese, wherever they come from, would look at these laws and say, well, this is something we could agree on, and this is something a bridge, and all countries need, just like we have an aviation system whereby captains and so on, they all fly into different airports, airports I should say, and there's a code that everyone knows that is, you wave your hand like this, it means the plane goes right. There's a certain standard language, so to speak, a universal language. For instance, like you have a universal stop sign, red is stop and green is go. So I think fundamentally we have to agree on a basic morality, basic ethics. Whether you're Muslim, whether you're Christian, whichever country you come from. I think the ideal of the United Nations was founded on that principle, that uniting everyone together. And thank God, we haven't had World War III yet. Thank God, and hopefully we'll never have it, because we're getting ready for Mashiach, for the Messiah, which is really about the time when it says, like it says in Isaiah wall, when swords, instruments of war, in other words, resources used for defense and for weaponry will be transformed for providing man's sustenance. The Isaiah wall, we just had a Hanukkah menorah lighting over there, and this is very fundamental because it shows that we're all created in the divine image. We all have an ability to live up to that image, and we have the responsibility to act and to behave as such. And it's really about bringing us together, and the United Nations, let's hope that ultimately there will be no more wars, and ultimately when we come to fruition, when we see that day, when ultimately the light of Torah and the light of goodness and kindness shines, because really there's enough food to feed everyone. There's enough housing for everyone. If it wasn't just for a few people who are greedy on the top, which really you can only sleep in one bed anyways. So God gave, you can only wear, there's a certain number of garments you can wear. There's a certain number so really it's about sharing and caring. And that's what it's all about. I want to thank you, and if anyone wants to ask me more or any more questions, info@noahide.org. Thank you. God bless.
Mendy, how you doing? Childhood friend of mine, many years. Been together, helped and support the Yemen Global Cause. Truly an inspiration. And Mendy, what can you tell us about the world peace, the redemption, and where the world can head in a more positive direction? Go.
In last week's parsha, we speak about Joseph, King Joseph. Joseph over here, and it's known that in the verses, if you look throughout the verses of the Bible, it's brought down that the Jewish people always compare themselves to Joseph. We say Edery.NY Yosef. It means like Joseph is our
shepherd.
Yeah, like a shepherd. He's like overlooking us, protecting us. So there's a big question. There are a lot of Jewish leaders around, and there are a lot of leaders in the world. So why are we always comparing ourselves to Joseph? Why don't we compare ourselves? Why don't we compare ourselves primarily to Yehuda, the 1 in 12 tribes? So if you look into their lifestyle, we'll understand a little bit on why we chose that, particularly Joseph over Yehuda, and then we'll understand how to apply it to us. So if you look at the both type of lifestyles, if you see that Yehuda and all the other tribes, their lifestyle was to being around in the fields. They were shepherds. They were around. They were in the fields the whole day. They're very detached and separated from
spirituality.
They're very connected to spirituality. But on the other hand, they were detached from this world. They weren't so much involved in dealing with worldly things. They were around sheep. They didn't have so much interaction with what's going on in the world. And that's in short, if you get the idea. They weren't really. They're in spirituality. They're in their own world the whole time. But in opposed to Joseph, who was taken down to Egypt, it was known that he was sat down in jail over there, and then he became second in command. He was second to the king, who was the top. Besides Pharaoh, who was the top person in Egypt. And yet, we know that Joseph kept his strength. I mean, he didn't fall to any temptations. He didn't follow any other cultures that were over there. He kept his own culture, and he stayed very, very close to that. And the more he stayed there, the stronger he got in his religion. Because he didn't let the surrounding environment to take influence over him. And there's a lot of stories which indicate that. We show you how he did that when he met his father after 14 years, because his father was in Israel. Only after 14 years he met his father, and the first thing he showed to him as a sign that he reminded him, he set him 10 calves, that was like something about the similar topic that he studied 14 years ago, which was showing how much he's still connected to the Bible and how much he's still strong in his belief. So, to make the long story short, us people living these days, we live in different societies. We don't always we live in this world. We don't live out in deserts. We live around people. We have phones. We have technology. We have friends. We meet people from different cultures, and yet it's important for us to always stick to our belief, like you mentioned, to stick to our belief in the Bible or whichever belief it is. As long as we all believe in God, and always trying to influence positivity into this world, we take our power from our leaders, which were in a similar situation to us. That's why we always compare ourselves to Joseph, which was in that similar state of us, and we look up to that and we reflect on us, and that's how we have to behave. That even though we could be in some sort of Egypt, which Egypt back in the day represented boundaries. The literal translation of Egypt into Hebrew, if you translate to Hebrew, it means boundaries.
Meitzar. Mitzrayim, Meitzar is boundaries.
Yeah, meaning, so that's like a limiting our view onto the positive, and limiting our view and seeing who created this world, limiting our view on the things that we should be focused on. It's not letting us see that. But Joseph, which was in Egypt, he managed to break through that limitation. So in our day, we're living in that times. There's a lot of different limitations coming around us. There's attacks, there's political views and stuff like that, and etc. And we just have to learn how to overcome that, and coming all together from all different cultures, and leading us to keeping the 7 Noahide laws, or following the right books, but looking at all in that perspective. That we're coming in to bring like a positive. We all can be surrounded about this positive energy and bringing all positivity to ourselves, and that way we can bring peace to world peace to the whole entire world. And I guess that's it for today. I guess.
Shkaya. That was good. As we put on our website, there's the 4-step plan, which is a culmination of many years of learning. I've learned 7 years in the yeshiva system of Chabad. Was zeicha to grow up in Crown Heights and hang around Ziknei Anash and hear stories of the Rebbe and how the Rebbe tried so hard to bring Mashiach and everything that surrounds that. So the 4-step plan is, the first step is connected to what Rabbi Cohen said earlier and what our guest spoke earlier about the 7 laws of Noah, to publicize them and proclaim them throughout the world. That's the first step. Of course, we have to have extreme amount of exposure and extreme amount of advertising and influence throughout the world. In any case, so for number 1, we have to spread the 7 laws of Noah. The second step, so the Sanhedrin in Israel will basically be a taxpayer-funded rabbinical establishment of 72 sages, and they will be able to have the authority and use the police just like the justice system. People will be able to choose to use them or not, and that will be a very big step towards a good world, a world that goes according to the Bible. And this third step would be Minui Melech, to establish a king. And people say, does it have to be King Mashiach? No, it doesn't. It could be a regular Jewish king, a spiritual leader, a rabbi, a sage, someone that can give guidance, but he's in the status of a king, and not a threat to the existing government at all. Just a spiritual leader. He could be looked at like a security-wise. He could be looked at like the Queen of England or Lahavdil, the Pope, just symbolic to the religion and to the faith that's going on there. Of course, this could also bring in a lot of tourism, a lot of money, and so on. And once we have a Jewish king, because this is, of course, is a biblical commandment in the Bible, the fourth step kicks in, which is to build the temple in Jerusalem. This is something that Sean Lee and I spoke about many times. Yeah, we're talking about actually creating the Mashiach in the world, and actually doing everything the Rebbe said, and not just sitting around and waiting, but actually doing it. The temple can be, as Sean Lee and I discussed, a place where all broken souls can come together and have their souls mended and have their healing done. This can be a place where, where East meets West, like Sean and I spoke about, and Sean explained, according to Chinese medicine, you have the body of the person, and you have the heart, and you have to look at the whole body, and yet you can learn how to heal the body. Israel is in the center of the world. It's where democracy meets spirituality, where nationalism meets collectivism. It's the place that if it works, the whole world is happy, and if it doesn't, the whole world is suffering. So Israel can be the heartbeat of the world, the place where everybody comes to mend their souls, and this will be complete if we build if we do the 4-step plan. Of course, anywhere throughout the 4-step plan, the Rebbe can be revealed, and there could be the resurrection of the dead, and we can give the kingship back to the Rebbe. If we're in the middle of building the temple and the temple rises from heaven or from below, then that would be fine. But what we need to do is what we need to do, and that doesn't take away the fact that we have prophecies that there will be miracles in the end of days. Doesn't take away from the biblical commandment that we have to make this world a better place, to build a temple, to have a king, and all those things. So thank you everybody for joining us. I truly know that it was very hard for everybody to come here. We have Sean Lee, which flew in from the other side of the world, and Nadal, which took time off his busy schedule to come here, and everybody else. Thank you so much for joining us today.
So this is a historical perspective of the mitzvah of the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noah, and just as a reference, I sent to Rabbi Edery the correspondence between Dr. Michael Schulman and myself, and in it there's the URL which says Rabbi Drazen, and if you press on that you press on that URL, you'll actually see the Hebrew where the Rebbe is talking about the Sheva Mitzvahs in Noah, from laws of bestiality to pedophilia and so on. So the laws of immorality are just a category which, when broken down, can fill an entire chapter. So this group of scholars worked on this creating a Shulchan Aruch, a code of Jewish law, a code of law for the seven mitzvahs for all the nations. And this was to be the specifics of the oath that was made between Adam and God, and subsequently between Noah. That's what's called Noahide. That after God expressed his dissatisfaction with the state of morality of the world, and he brought the flood, then we recommitted ourselves to this oath of creating a moral world that, in fact, the existence of the world was now merged into the algorithm that hardwired morality into existence. That we have to earn God's ongoing breath of life. The utterances that sustain the universe are now hardwired into the morality that is judged, whereupon the world is judged every year as to whether it earns its keep for another year. And then there will be the big day of judgment, which happens to the individual when he leaves this world, and which will happen to all mankind upon the arrival of the Messiah.